Agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, April 6th, 2023, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 423. We are going to start today with a brief interview, but Bruce, you want to do all the technical aspects first?
Sure. Those of you that are here, you get to hear my spiel, which isn't quite as good as Jim's spiel. I'm never gonna nail it the same way, but listen. So this is the All the Leads Mastermind, and we are here to answer your questions, talk to you about your probate strategy, negotiate deals, kind of give you any of that coaching and training advice that you guys are looking for, whether you're a longtime subscriber and been in probate or pre-probate for a long time, or whether you're new and just thinking about coming over and joining All the Leads and starting to work. Probate is a niche. We do this every single Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So make sure that this is on your calendar. We want you guys here. You're going to learn a ton of stuff by just listening to others' questions, others' comments, others' success stories. So we are here for you guys. So we want to hear your questions and your stories. We're going to start with Dan here in just a minute, who's had some success that is going to be a real boost for a lot of you guys that are kind of especially just getting started, or maybe not taking the action that you know that you need to take. It works. And we're going to hear from one of our subscribers that it's been working for in just a second. So if you do have a question or you have a success story, I want you to go to the bottom of your screen and click the little reactions button. Raise your hand. We will call on you, have you unmute yourself to answer those questions. If you are not here with us on Zoom, if you're watching on live stream, which is on YouTube or Facebook, you can chat your questions in underneath of the live stream. It'll come to us as coaches and we'll be able to answer it for you here live on the call. I look forward to hearing from everyone. Let's go ahead and start with Dan.
All right. Hey, Dan, thanks for being here. If I could just set the stage a little bit.
Okay.
One of the reasons I asked Dan to be here today, he has been with us since 2016. Dan, I went back and looked. You've come and gone 7 times since 2016.
Okay. And I'll explain that to everybody as to why.
Yeah. And I wanted to, which I thought you could give a unique perspective. Whenever I see Dan on the caller ID, I pick up because it means he's ready to come back. So I thought you'd have a unique perspective on, why you come back, what works and what doesn't. And I also wanted to thank you. As of late, I've been getting calls from people that say, not in your direct market, but in adjoining markets, that say, hey, Dan told me about your program, told me I got to sign up. Dan's an active affiliate. And if any of you want to know about our affiliate program, we'll be talking about that probably next week or the week after. We'll be digging into detail. But thank you for always coming back, and thank you for the referrals. So what's working, what's not working? Tell us your life story, please.
Okay. Well, let me just say I'm a broker owner of a RE/MAX franchise. And prior to that, I was just doing my thing, having fun. I retired twice from DuPont and Koch Industries. And I joined up with Jim about middle ways because I had a friend that was doing estates, and he was having some success, but he wasn't a hustler. So I said, I need to figure this out. And I got hooked up with Jim. And I was having about a 20% to maybe 30% success rate in the state of Delaware. And then I moved out into Chester and Cecil County, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. And I was doing it myself, having a very good success. And then I had Jim give me too much information to stay on top of. So I brought people in, new agents in my office, said, hey, I got a lead program for you. I'll help you grow your business. One, I helped too much because she left with my ideas. And I don't think she stayed in the program. She decided to do other things, and now she wants connections, which I'll share with her, but I don't give her everything. So I have people making these calls, and first thing I do when I get a list from Jim, I look at them, I clean them up, and I say, hey, mail the letters out. But you get those out there, then people will start calling you. I get 1 or 2 people every time I get a letter mailed out. Then I implemented this thing, 50 calls, 50 texts, 50 emails, which is all usually on Jim's sheet. The problem is we're getting more and more do not calls. but that doesn't mean do not text, do not email. So I have people doing that. So far, I have 2 new agents that since the beginning of the year have closed 6 deals, all over 350,000. And they're slack on their 50 calls and 50 texts. So I just reprimanded them this morning saying, I can give these to somebody else if you don't need the business. So that's why I've come and gone with Jim 7 times. I got the data. I know it works, but running the office, I got 40 agents that I'm trying to help. And I just got too busy. So now I got 4 more people in training, and all I'm giving them is the leads from all the leads. And 2 of them are very successful. 2 of them have to finish their exams yet. And then I'm sure they'll be successful. And every now and then I peel 1 or 2 off for myself.
Dan, I'm sure the coaches will have questions and others might too.
Yeah.
You reminded me of one thing that I've said to brokers so many times over the years is it can be a unique recruiting advantage for you that you have a very unique lead source that you're willing to share with them that is not as competitive as FSBOs or expireds or the other leads they may be working. It's a really good recruiting tool, and it sounds like you use it that way. So good job.
Yeah, and we have a nice letter. We show passion, and I'll be more than glad to share any of that. You can send out information. Always take time to talk to people, because it's only the good we do that we get to take with us. So if anybody has any questions, I'm working with 4 people in Massachusetts right now, but one of them is a struggling owner, and I told her that I will give her the access first, and then she can try to grow Massachusetts for Jim as an affiliate. So I just met her last week. I drove up.
Perfect. And Dan, a cautionary tale for anyone that's getting those leads that I'm sending out. Dan, I gave Dan a red hot lead. Him and his team went out of their way to help this person find an attorney and file bankruptcy. And as soon as they did that, they listed with a relative. Dan's attitude was next. I mean, it happens. It absolutely happens. But you had a good attitude about it. And I said maybe next time I'd get the listing signed first, and then subsequent with the help. But you always come from a place of helping the people, which is appreciated.
Yeah. So I've also closed 4 leads in my community right now, all the leads, which it's kind of funny. They get mails from me, and then my neighbor calls me up and says, "Hey, I got a letter from you. Can you come up and list my place?" Because I don't advertise in my own neighborhood. My wife doesn't like that. But you got to follow up with the letter up front, and then I follow up with the 50 phone calls, 50 texts, 50 emails, and then a letter. So if you miss the phone calls and that, do a second letter. You can either have Jim's group do it or mail it out yourself. And the ones that work mostly is the ones out of town, and Jim's list is good for that. You can go look and say, hey, this heir or this executive is in Chicago. So 4 times this year, I've sold not just furniture and cars in the house. I've sold clothes. I've had all kinds of things. So we offer, get your dad's favorite flannel shirt so you don't have to cry anymore. Let me take care of everything else for you. And that works really well.
Yep.
Awesome.
I'm sure we're going to have some questions.
Yes.
And Dan, if you are free, I'd like you to kind of hang around for a second to get those questions and some of those things that are going to come to you. I want to jump in because I absolutely love the fact that you're like me, as an All the Leads subscriber for many years before I started doing the training and coaching here. I dropped several times. So I dropped and came back, and it was always because I'd get a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit on my plate. I was running a team as well, and you get kind of busy, you get too many deals almost, and you pull back and then you come back in. And that's one of the biggest things that we hear from a lot of people that are signing back up is, hey, I just got a little bit too busy. The system works. I quit working the system for a few months. I've got the bandwidth now. I'm coming back in. And I want everyone here to know that when you follow the simple, then your system's not too complicated. When you follow the system, it works. It works.
Well, and then that doesn't cover also the leads you get after that from friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually get about 3 to 1. Because I
And
track data.
and how often do you, when you've closed one of a probate lead, how often do you adopt those people into your own sphere of influence, and all of a sudden now they become a lifetime client, lifetime friend?
Well, that's right. Some of them I'm working 3rd generation, great grandkids.
Yep. I love it. So how long you been doing probate in general?
2000. Well, actually, I started in like 2008, but then I'd have to go down and hustle all the data and all that. And one day I'm sitting here thinking, come on, you've been at some high corporations. Let somebody else do that. You're a salesperson. So then I started looking around. I found Jim, and I just made a random call. And he said, yeah, we can provide it. And he did. And, I was the top agent when I was selling it for Weicker, believe it or not. And then when I come to Remax for 5 straight years, and I was just letting somebody else do the work for me and getting the leads. But they work. You should get about 10 out of 100 with all the leads. Everybody else is 3 to 5 for 100.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some of them are lower than that. So I track all the data and I cut, and I do know, and I tell everybody, this program works. You got to follow it. And one of them was my daughter-in-law. And she got lazy on me too. So I give them to a new person. And I'll have a new person to have them. Now she's wanting to come back because she's a school teacher. I understand, but hey, it's not that hard being a teacher. It's a pain, I know, but you can do this nights and weekends. You can also refer. I've gotten, at least 10 referrals I've referred out to other places, because some occasions I'll get something on Jim's list that a little bit out of where I want to go. So I call, make the connections, and pass them on. And I take 30% for that.
Yep.
Nice.
I want you guys to hear something that Dan just said. And Dan, I don't know if you prefer to go by Daniel or not. It's Daniel.
Doesn't matter. I've been called worse.
Okay. We teach, and so many of you guys are in and have taken probate foundations. A lot of you guys may have taken probate foundations yesterday or another time, and you're going to recognize that I essentially set you guys up with the expectation that you're going to get between 1.5% and 3.5% conversion rate. And I make sure to go out of my way to tell everyone that that I give those ratios to, that some people do worse. The people that do worse typically do nothing. If you do very little or you don't follow the system, you're absolutely going to do worse than that 1.5% to 3.5% ratio. But I also tell you that if you follow the system and you're consistent with it, you can get much higher. And Dan is an example. He just mentioned that he gets about 10 out of 100. Dan's an example of someone that follows a simple system and does better than what we tell you that the typical subscriber and the typical agent or investor is going to do. So kudos to you, Dan. And it comes down to a relatively simple system: 50 calls, 50 texts, 50 emails. And that's per day. Is that what?
That's a week.
Okay. That's a week.
Of course, more's better.
Man, that's incredible. That doesn't take very long, does it?
No. No, and I like it when they challenge me to make the calls, and I make the calls, and I always get 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, wow, you're the master, we're not. And I'm saying, I'm not the master, you're supposed to be the master.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just a matter of learning how to communicate with people, right?
Yep. Yeah, and then the first time, what I tell them and what I find out is not everybody's ready to sell right away. Some of them like the, what I call taking time to heal process. It's usually when there's 2 siblings involved. And, you just got to convince them that now's the best time to sell, and carrying a house and leaving it empty, but you live in Chicago or somewhere, it's not going to work. The house is going to have to put money into it. So I follow up with a postcard in between there, and usually some of these take 2 to 6 months to hit. But if you stay in touch, they're going to call you.
Yep.
And
Bruce, there was a question. The question was chatted in from Gregory, asking. Can you see it there, Bruce? I don't want to paraphrase it. He said, is Dan using the whole service team offer or just presenting his services as a realtor?
So Dan, let me clarify that. Are you using kind of a concierge type of service where you're providing connections to attorneys, estate sale companies, or are you
Yeah,
just going straight for the real estate?
yeah, I reach out to the attorneys too. We mail them, but I think the biggest difference that I've seen lately is when I have Jim's group mail out the letters first, then my people procrastinate and they get those letters out and they go out to the heirs, they go out to the attorneys, and I get approved pretty quick. And then I take my letters and postcards and get them ready to go out 6 weeks after his goes out, and the 50 text emails and calls.
So what are you offering when you connect with someone? Are you offering a done for you kind of full service program, or are you offering?
Yeah, so
just
in our
this?
letter, it tells you what we can do. It goes back to when I was beginning, I said, let us take away your grief. You take time to heal, get rid of your dad's flannel shirts or whatever anybody else wants, take those and we'll take them from there. So the first thing we do is at the open houses, we try to sell the stuff so it costs them nothing.
Mhm.
We then we'll bring in professionals. I use somebody here called Two Sisters, which they'll come out and they'll put tags on everything and they get 2 days to sell. Then we go to charities, which I remind them that you could get some of your better tax deductions from charities because they're going to give you more money than what you're selling for at these sales, but you have to claim on your taxes also, the cash. And then at the very end, I have somebody that will come in and we try to help out the homeless with whatever coats or Goodwill, or we'll bring in American vets, especially if the guys are vets, that works really well. And then at the end, we take care. Now we charge for out of pocket. So in my tri-area here, Delaware and Maryland are like 5% commission states. I charge 6% for this service and I've yet to have anyone turn it down if they just want to get rid of that problems. And then Pennsylvania's a 6, so I charge 7. And again, any out of pocket, they have to pay me for. I don't mark it up, but I mark my commission up. Then I charge an admin fee for other things I may have to do for the attorneys for them, and that's $3.95.
Yep.
That's great. Bernardina asks, when you text them, what do you text?
We just say, sorry to hear about your loss. Basically, the first part of the letter we wrote, but that really works well. Sorry to hear about your loss. We're here to help you. Here's our service. Please call. Short, sweet, to the point, because we know it's going into the trash can next, unless they're really at the point they're ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Now, interesting. We get calls too from our letters saying, hey, wish we'd have gotten this sooner. We use a family member and she doesn't know what, or he doesn't know what he's doing. So we'll help them out free. We'll just say, hey, call us up. We'll help them. We'll send you what our guideline and who we have in the area to help you. And we picked up a lead from one of the siblings that were selling her house and moving on.
Yeah. Question for you, Dan. What you mentioned, that you're sending the information out, you're reaching out straight away as soon as you get the list.
Yes.
Typically, since you have the data throughout the years, when in the time the time schedule, like is it 3 months in, 4 months in? I know you're pressing for sell it now, but when are you typically seeing those listings hit the market compared to when they filed for probate?
This year I have seen more, about 40% within a month and a half. The others take 3 to 6. After 6, I don't follow up anymore because I figured they already have, but I do have a person when she's got free time that will look to see if the house is sold for us. And if it hasn't, we follow up again. Because like I said, what I see sometimes people like to sit on it a while. They bought the other sibling out or whatever. And now they're an out-of-state owner of a property that's empty. So I'll say, hey, let us rent it for you. Let us sell it for you, whatever. So I try to turn it into multiple streams of income when we can, and it works pretty good.
Yep. Awesome. So I want to bring this question to you, Dan. I've got a response, but I also want to hear how someone else that's doing this at a high level is doing it. So what do you guys do if you've called someone and they ask how you got their information? How do you handle that?
I just simply tell them, hey, it's public knowledge. Anybody can get your information. I'm surprised that I'm the first one that reached out to you, but I'm happy. And I can help you, save you in the grief.
Yep.
That's written script for everybody to use.
Yep. Awesome. All right. And the way that I handle it, one of the things that I want kind of everyone here that's listening to our conversation to know is when you are on the phone, it's your job to control the direction of that call. You can't constantly volley back the questions that someone is throwing at you. Your job is to control the direction, because when you turn control over to the prospect, it could go any way possible. If they say, "How'd you get my number?" you need to quickly deliver an answer in 1 or 2 lines, similar to what Dan just gave, and then immediately follow it with a question or another power statement. So kind of the way that I would normally handle that would be, "Hey, I actually got your information from the courthouse after you filed probate. You're the personal representative, right?" Okay, so immediately, instead of camping out there on my answer, I'm steering it down the path of making sure that they have to answer a question from me, and they stop thinking about how I got their information. So I got that information from court records because after you filed probate, you're the personal representative, correct? And now they're responding back to me, and I'm back in control of that call. So use Dan's line, use my line, come up with your own, as long as you guys know that you need to be in control of that, of the direction of that call. Don't leave it up to the person to constantly throw questions and challenges out at you.
I have another question for you, Dan. When you're talking about, 3 to 1, because you were able to provide good service and help the family out, are those the future deals? Are they from multiple different families that were part of the heirship of the estate? You're getting referrals, or you're getting future deals from multiple people involved in that transaction?
Yeah. So what? Probably 2 come from the family, and 1 comes from a neighbor. And the last 4 I just did, like I've gotten 3 out of the same neighborhood for offering the same service, which comes up and they say, "Hey, who's doing all this work, the estates and stuff? What's that cost?" And I said, "I coordinated it all for you." So I've gotten a couple neighbors, and it happens to be my neighborhood that my wife doesn't like for me to do. And then it usually at one of their siblings or 2, I'll get it. A couple of them are moving from Massachusetts now down here because they saw where their father lived. This is where they want to be, because Pennsylvania doesn't tax your pension or Social Security. They tax everything else, but they don't tax that.
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm real close to you. I'm up in Lancaster. So now you're talking about Massachusetts. So Dan, you think this will work in the Boston market?
Yeah, Jim's actually already provided the office I was at leads, and they're excited. Now, I asked her to call this morning, but they just had a baby. So she will call me about 1 o'clock in the morning, knowing that I'll be up, and I'll take her call. And then my wife will come say who you're talking to, and I'll tell her State Farm. Everybody's seen that.
Jake with State Farm, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Now,
Hey, Bruce,
one thing,
I'm not sure if it's related, but Connor said that Brian Clodius had a question. Brian, just raise your hand and we'll call on you if you can.
No, that was a direct message to Bruce and I. We'll cover that in just a minute. I want to revisit Dan's gold nugget, right? Being able to, for those of you that are coming from a traditional approach to general real estate, whether it's expireds, FSBOs, just listed, just sold, I'm going to take that gold nugget that you said about, the just listed, just sold, or we're working on an estate in your neighborhood and reaching out to that. I call it the 6-pack, right? You've got the house across the street, and you've got both neighbors either on that side of the street or next to it. You've got that 6-pack. At least start there and initiate the relationship by saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing." It gives you that opportunity to express, "Hey, this is the service that we can help," because where there's one, there's likely others. Just, where I live in a transitional neighborhood as well. We've got a number of folks that have owned their property for 25, 30 years. and I know what's coming in years to come. So I'm going to take that gold nugget and invest it.
Hey, Chuck, if I could expand on that real quick, you just reminded me, it was probably a couple years ago. We, on one of these calls, one of our subscribers asked, I have an estate sale company doing an auction of, or selling everything, on Sunday. Do I need to be there? And we told him, nah, you don't need to be there. Another one of our subscribers said, you might want to rethink that. He said, whenever my estate sale company has one of those, I stand in the front yard and I basically meet the whole neighborhood. It's like doing it just listed, just sold. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, you make sure they have your business cards there and what you can do for the estate. That's what I do with all of them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I have giveaways too. I have little giveaways, pens and stuff like that for them. And just back up one moment to what Bruce was talking about earlier about people calling, how'd you get my number? The most negative call you get is they call up and they call you all kinds of names saying, you just died and now you're trying to do this and do that. And my simple answer is, sir or ma'am, I am so sorry you feel that way. My intent, if you read the letter, was to reach out and help you because I know what I went through when my father died. And it was a flannel shirt that tore me down. So I don't want you to have to go through that. So that's the purpose of my letter. I apologize. They almost always call back.
Yep.
They were having a bad day. Just like Bruce was saying, it's your first response. You got to be prepared for that. Now, Tracy, which I know she talked to everybody in the organization, she's the one that I'm training now. She was crying. I walked in and she was crying. I said, what's wrong, Trace? She said, you wouldn't believe this person. I said, well, let's call him back. She said, no, he was really upset. I said, well, let's call him back. And we called him back and I said, hey, look, I'm the broker here and I apologize for it, but this is really the intent of what we're trying to do. She listed the house. She got a contract on it. And actually turned out to be his father had a reverse mortgage on it and he was just going to give it back to them. And I said, well, he owes 95. Your house will sell for 350 in about a week, and it did. Then that deal fell through because the people decided they didn't want it anymore. We sold it the next day for more money. So it's just being prepared to respond. And, I felt bad for Tracy. I actually get people call back. She's got a soothing voice just to talk to her, even though they haven't listed about things. So I think she got one lead. It was a trailer, but she sold that yesterday as a result of all the leads.
There are so many nuggets here, Dan. I want you guys to hear the one nugget that he just gave, and it was the angry person that's upset that you mailed them or called them. And that's a brilliant way to handle it. If you guys missed that, go back and listen to this replay. Amazing way to handle it. So many people, they're just sort of reacting out of emotion, and they will calm down really fast if you respond properly. So I want everyone to go back and listen to that again. The other nugget that I've really taken out of this, Dan, and I've just completely lost my train of thought. I was hoping that it would come back to me. I had another nugget that you gave me a second ago, but this is just consistency. You've got to be prepared for the different types of responses that you guys are going to get. Just know how to talk to people in a soothing way. Oh, the big thing, and this is exactly what I wanted to share. A listing, guys, when you take a listing, and I know that some of you are investors here as well. This works for you investors also, but especially those of you that are agents. You take a listing that should be worth an additional 7 pieces of business over time if handled correctly. You handle that relationship correctly, and it's going to turn into a lifetime client. It's going to turn into referrals. It's going to turn into sign calls. It's going to turn into neighbors that work with you as well. You handle it correctly and you do things the way that Dan has described here, and it is going to turn into additional pieces of business. You can't ignore those neighbors. You can't ignore the relationship after you've helped them sell. You've got to adopt them. You have to treat them like family. You need to go to the neighbors and let people know what you're doing. Because I guarantee if you knock on 10 doors that are neighbors, one of them is going to go through probate at some point in the near future. It's some way or another. It may be their direct family member. Maybe they're going to be a personal representative. Maybe they're not going to be a personal representative, but they're going to be involved in the estate. And if you can talk to them about how you're helping before they go through that, they'll remember when they do go through it. So sorry to hijack that, Dan. Sorry, I couldn't remember what
That's
that
right.
slogan was, but it's to turn business into
We're all here to
business.
learn and share. And what I tell my folks in real estate and with all the leads, I use this for a lot of things. There's two games you can play in life, no matter what it is. If it's real estate, it's the same two games. If it's baseball, it's the same two games. First game is how little can I do to get by? And you're going to get the rewards for that. The other game is how much can I do to make sure I get by? That's how I come up with the 50, 50, 50 a week. You know, it's 200 a month, but if you break it down, it's a lot better.
Mhm.
So my folks are playing the how much game, but right now they're probably in the middle of the how much and how little. So we'll have a meeting in the morning. One of them was supposed to be on this call.
That's great. Looks like we got a hand up, Bruce. I don't know if it's related, but you want to call on
let's go
Ken?
to
Yeah.
Ken. Ken, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, what's up, guys? I've missed you. I've been away and been busy. I went to Mexico, so things are good. I'm going to buy a property out there, partially with the confidence that I have a steady income coming in from all the leads. I just closed 2 properties. I think I mentioned it in one of your calls, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. I had 2 properties from one client. One was 750,000. I got a 3.5% commission on that. I'm getting 3.5% commissions regularly on my deals, and I have a way I'm structuring that. And I'm probably actually not going to give that away right now. But 750, 3.5% commission.
Yeah.
I did give back a 30% referral fee because the brother was an agent. So I'm like, okay, I still made 18,000 on the other property. I made 8,000. I gave him a 25% referral on that. So I ended up with like 6 or so. But I have 3 other listings on market now, or excuse me, 2 listings on market now, 1 coming to market. But just for everybody watching, I mean, like Dan's saying, compassion, empathy, how you can help. I always try to bring up, hey, did you lose somebody that was close to you? And if they say yes, then I, say, hey, my sincerest condolences to you. I'm so sorry for your loss, but hopefully you find the time to have some deep reflections on that relationship and what that means in your life moving forward. Because a lot of us are just going through life. We're not really thinking about, what we want in our life, what we want to create. So I'm like, if you can find any meaning in this loss and direct your life in a more powerful way, then, then at least you have some meaning out of it. And the beauty of it is you lost somebody, but you had that close relationship, which I think is really amazing. And on a regular basis, people say, you're the only one that's really actually even offered me any condolences. So I think it's so important to connect first emotionally and really let these people know like you're a human being and that you care about them. And then you go into the pitch that I have, a team of contractors. I have, people that can do any kind of work at the house, and they're going to do it at a very affordable rate because I refer them consistent business. Or I can get you a cash offer, if you don't want to carry the mortgage and you just want to get the home sold as quickly as possible, I can help you with that. So I have all the solutions lined up. But first, as you guys say, I mean, you guys are amazing teachers, so thank you so much. Like, I'm so grateful that I found this community, but lead with empathy, and hopefully that's sincere.
Yep.
Yeah, please be sincere, guys. Please be sincere with that empathy. Ken, we're really glad to have you here as well. And I like what you just said. You kind of broke it down and explained, not explained, you kind of turned a little bit into life coach a little bit in your calls to a degree. And that's so valuable. I tell people all the time that your number one job when you connect with someone who's lost a loved one, your number one job is rapport. It is not to get an appointment and make a sale. It is to establish a relationship and rapport. Your number two job is not to get an appointment and make a sale. It's to get them to communicate and give you some information on their situation. And if you can do those two things, rapport and information, the listings, the purchase opportunities, the client relationships, those will come. But you have to get rapport and information from them first. So
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it's all about the connection. I mean, literally when I get on the phone, sometimes there's a little resistance because I have these deals going on, but before I get on the phone, I settle myself. I tell myself I'm going to really have some amazing conversations and connect with people on a deep level. And that seems to happen every single time I get on the phone. Maybe not with 10 people, but maybe it's one or two. And that's all you need. If you get on the phone consistently, like I do it now 3 days a week. I cut it down from 5 because it was just too much. But if I get one or two solid phone calls and I make a deep connection with that person and literally where I give them the feeling like we could be friends, then the rest takes care of itself. And it's actually pretty darn easy when you shift your mindset. So again, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Ken. Dan, we've got a question for you, and I know the answer, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it for you to answer. And then Tim has something he wants to chime in with. So Dan, the question that came is, what does 50 a week mean? Does it mean 10 calls, 10 texts, 10 emails per day per lead? Is that what it means?
No, it means 50 calls, 50 texts, 50 emails for a week. I prefer more to how much came, but that's the minimum bar that I set. And the reason for that is somebody like me, I like to talk on the phone. My grandkids and my grandson would rather text, so would my son. But if you talk on the phone, I can pretty much put you in an age group. If you take that call, I can put you in an age group. If you want to text with me, that's your preferred communication. And if you email, you're somewhere in between. You don't know if you want to be on the phone or you can do a little bit of email. So I'll give you your way of communication. That's kind of why I do it that way.
And that's an overall,
Yeah,
that's not per lead though, correct?
That's per week. I want, so if you take 4 weeks times 50, I want you to making that many calls. That's how much.
They're 50 separate leads. One call, one text, one email per lead.
Right.
Times 50 leads.
Yeah. But you also got the ones you can go back on too.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole key for the first 2 months, maybe even to the third, is staying in touch, because half of them I find have not made up their mind yet. Some people are taking longer to heal than others. Some can't afford it. It depends on the situation of the estate and how the parents or whoever left the estate have left them. Most people can't pay the mortgage, or there's a reverse mortgage and it hasn't been paid for a while and they're going to foreclose like the last one we did. So it kind of varies a little bit, but generally that's the rule that I have.
Mm-hmm. I want everyone here to make a special note of this. And that is my favorite words that I ever hear on the phone. I don't know what we're going to do yet, or we don't know what we're going to do yet. That's my favorite response to hear from someone when I call. Number one is because I know that they've got to work through things in their own time frame. Anybody else that might call, they're going to give the same answer to, and most people will never follow up on that person. We don't know yet is a future client of yours. As long as you can nurture that relationship, build rapport, and offer some real value over time. Don't get discouraged when someone says they're not ready or they don't know what they're going to do. That's an amazing response. Anybody else that you're competing with, maybe they're not going to follow up with those folks. So it's your job to follow up and build the long-term relationship.
Hey, Dan, I know Tim wanted to say something. I just wanted to jump in as you were telling that story of the person that was going to let it go back to the bank, and then you sold it for $300,000 in 5 days. What an awesome testimonial. If you got something like that in writing and put it on your letters, or even got a video and shared it, I'm sure you're doing that. Are you getting testimonials from people that have extraordinary results like that?
Yeah, we have letters we send out, but it covers a lot of things. It covers the leads. It covers our, I do Red X too for FSBOs, which most people give up on the first time. And like I say, the conversion's not great, but every day I make people call on those. But the letters and the follow-ups, just a short, sweet text saying, just thinking of you, hope you're recovering, or something like that. Once you've established that lead, like Bruce said, and rapport with them. Just a simple text like, just thinking of you today, hope it's well. They don't know you, but they like it.
What I was referencing though, do you use success stories? Do you share those? Like the extraordinary story you told just now?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
good.
good.
And we're trying to get some of that stuff uploaded into each of their websites now, because Remax and I are providing all the agents KV core, which requires a lot of that. The more of that stuff you have, the better.
Great. Tim, you had something?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut this discussion off because mine is kind of ancillary to that. And I want to take off on something that Bruce said for a second. You know, Bruce was saying that every listing that you make, or, you know, if you're an investor sale or whatever, every one of them can yield additional business going forward. Before the call today, we were having some conversation about affiliate sales and all that sort of stuff that Bruce and I had been talking earlier this morning about. And I'd been actually talking to some other people about that exact thing going forward, some of the things that we're doing. And it occurs to me that I had heard this before, and it finally came back into my brain. One of the more successful people that I know in our business, every person that he sells, he literally then accepts them into his mind as an affiliate. He looks at every person that he has sold and says, I have a new affiliate. And to Bruce's point, it dawns on me that, you know, if in fact you're able to look at your customers that way and assume that over time, each person that you said represents a possibility for 6 more or 7 more sales, or whatever number you want to put on it. Maybe it's only 1 more, but it's one you don't have if you let it go. And how many times have you had this happen to you where you've been working somebody and, you know, you may have sold their house for them, and then 2 or 3 years later, you're driving down the street in that same neighborhood, and in their front yard is a competitor's sign. And you go, well, why didn't they call me? Well, I'd say to you, why didn't you call them? Mm-hmm. It's all about being, you know, top of mind all the time. And if you can approach your ever-growing sphere of influence as a bunch of affiliates and put something out to them all the time that has value, not sales copy, but value in their marketplace. Here's what's happening in your market. You know, here's just stuff that's valuable to them, even if it has nothing to do with real estate. Hey, did you know that such and such, big box store is getting ready to open up in the mall near where we live? Or, hey, had a great dinner. You know, local stuff. Be top of mind. Be somebody that they think of, so that when that opportunity comes, you're the first person that they think of. It's the same thing that we talk about in regard to probate leads. You got to be the right place at the right time. They season well. Well, nothing seasons better than that affiliate relationship. They're always going to run into somebody who's getting ready to sell, and you want to make sure they say, well, you certainly need to reach out to Bruce Hill. You know, Bruce did a great job for me. Or if they're going to do something, it's like, well, I wouldn't want to go anywhere else but Bruce. Even if my next door neighbor is a realtor, you know, you want to be able to say, well, yeah, that's great, and I appreciate it. You know, I've been working with Bruce all this time, real successful, yada, yada, yada. You got to be that top of mind. So look at your sales and listings as affiliates and work them that way. Have an organized program to go out after them.
Yep. Hey, Tim, there's another question on here, and I know that you're probably the best qualified to answer it. Does the texting go against the TCPA laws?
So the answer to the question is almost always going to be, if you don't have their permission to contact them, then you need to find a way to get that. In certain circumstances, that's not the case. If they happen to text you back, you give them your number and they text you, you've established that relationship. Anytime you get something going with people, you need to make sure that they know that you're going to be contacting them via text. And, you know, I think one of the things that Daniel said is that he sort of categorizes people. If they're in a certain age bracket, he looks at them and says, well, that might be somebody who'd prefer to be texted. And so you might approach them that way. And if you can get it that way and you can establish that relationship, then, you know, that may be a reasonable way to do it. You don't want to exclude people, but at some point you have to make some assumptions about your business. And, you know, Daniel's done a good job of figuring out a way to kind of do that. But is it illegal? You know, you need to read the TCPA, and it specifically says you need permission to do that. Having said that, I want to comment on something else. It is becoming more and more difficult to do that without that, because the phone companies themselves, if you're going to do it in bulk, they're going to shut you down going forward if you don't play by the rules. And the reason I'm saying that is if you followed what's going on kind of under the surface right now, and we do this constantly, there are big changes coming, and our providers, particularly the big ones, Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, all of T-Mobile, they are forcing their customers that are doing texting to go through a bunch of hoops to prove, first off, they are who they are, that they're doing it correctly, and all those sorts of things. We're having to go through that now, certification program. So in a small way, if you're doing it one-to-one and you text a customer, then I'm going to be realistic and say the chances of you running into big trouble are pretty small, because they're not going to come, you know, banging on your door in the middle of the night for sending a text. But if you're going to do bulk and you're going to do it regularly and all of that, find a way to get permission to do that. Find a way to get people to sign up for that info, and make sure if you're going to do something like that, you give people the ability to opt out. That at the close of every text, there's a stop receiving these texts. Just type stop, and you ought to have that as an automated part of your funnel. That when they send stop, it stops, and you tell them, "Thank you very much, appreciate doing it. Let us know," and let them know that you've taken them off your text list.
One of the things with Dan that I really like is that it's 50 a week per person, and that 50 a week is not something that's really likely to get caught in the big carriers' web. It's when you go to like a drop system where you're dropping hundreds of texts and phone calls in a minute. That's where you're running into some pretty significant risk that you're going to get caught up in their web if you're sending those individual text, emails, or calls out, and it's to the tune of 50 a week. That is probably a way that I don't want to say obviously we want you guys to be aware of any risks, but we want you to know how to do things smart as well.
And just to clarify again, be careful with the 50 calls, 50 texts per person. You're talking about
right.
per agent that is making those calls, right? We're not calling somebody 50 times.
Right. That's right.
So what I typically recommend on all the orientation calls is call through your list twice per month, right? And so that way maybe that's 50 each of the first 2 weeks if you got 100 lead list, and then you repeat and you go back through another 50 for the third and the fourth week. So then you've gone through your list twice per month. Now, as you stack the next month on top of that, and we're still calling the first month's list, then we're adding another 100. So then we've got to up that game or add additional people if you're limited to the 50. So Dan, being a broker owner, he has multiple people that are making these calls and reaching out to the lead list. Now, if we're an individual agent and or an investor, then we need to work with either outsourcing or increasing those numbers for us in particular to achieve that 2 per month for each of our lists.
Yep. So one of the questions that came in to Dan is how many times do you attempt to reach out to call someone, and then how many conversations do you typically have per lead before they're a client?
It's usually about 2, unless there's just a circumstance, like I said about the other one, where they were going to take the house back, that they'd have to rush to do a short sale rush, and you can usually pause that, or a reverse mortgage. Those are usually really quick because you tell the folks, you owe a lot less than you can sell the house for. And then the other ones usually average about 3 months. It's usually, they take time to heal and they're not quite ready and they have a lot of stuff, but more and more that people understand, especially when I do one in a neighborhood. I got one now that I picked up, same thing, and he had a stucco problem. He's on vacation. He wants to be gone in a month. I said, I'll take the stucco while you're gone, tell your guy to call me. So the other thing I do with Jim's list is I download that into Excel. And every time we have a touch and get a response, you got to write down what it was. Is it they don't want you to call back anymore? Are they going to do it later? Or is there 6 siblings and like one of them, 5 of them are in, one didn't want to do anything. So they told her to pay the bills and that became quick. So every time we have a touch, they got to expand that. When the last time you talked to them so we can track it. Mm-hmm. After about 3 months, pretty much then to who you want to follow up. It's probably about 25% left on the list. We also cross-reference that against the Zillow sites, our sites, and everywhere else to see if they've been listed.
Yep. Awesome. Let's go to David. David's got his hand up. Go ahead and unmute yourself, David.
Hello, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hey, good afternoon. I wanted to ask really quick because I'm still kind of a newbie to the probates. Forget where I got the information from, but I believe there were people saying that all probates don't have real estate attached to them. Is that true or not?
Correct. Yep. So
Okay.
People in every state is different, but let me just give you a general rule of thumb nationwide. And yeah. I know that some states have much higher thresholds, but normally if you're going to file probate, it's because you have at least $50,000 of net asset value. A lot of times that is real estate. Sometimes it's a car, a boat. Sometimes it's a whole lot of personal property. But if your net value of the estate after debts are paid is under 50, you usually don't have to go through probate. So you know that there's going to be at least some assets there. 70 to 80% of the time, it's real estate.
Okay. The list that you guys provide through all the leads, do all of them have real estate attached to them, or some of them don't?
Some don't. We provide all of the probate cases that have been filed that month. And so you can pretty much assume that 20%, sometimes as high as 30, may not have real estate. But it does not mean that there's not real estate involved, because you've got family members that have real estate and they're receiving an inheritance. You have life insurance policies. You have a lot of things that may indirectly connect to other real estate, but about 20 to 30% of the probate leads that you see in a typical file won't have real estate that's tied directly to that decedent.
And Bruce, if I could jump in real quick. Also, we've heard so many stories from our subscribers over the years that they talked to someone who didn't have real estate, but they had inherited significant assets and they wanted to sell their house and buy a nicer one. Don't assume it isn't a client just because there wasn't any real estate in that particular
probate
state.
call.
And Ken, we're listening to your call.
I got it. Yeah.
You got them. Okay. Yeah, don't discount people just because they say there was no real estate in the estate. They may have real estate elsewhere. They may want to sell their house, but they may want to buy another one. They may want to invest in real estate. They came into a significant windfall, whether it's real estate or another type of asset.
Yep.
Yeah. So David, as an investor, you probably want to express to them, oh, okay, well, I'll update my data that you don't have a house in the estate. What we do is we help homeowners that are looking to sell their house fast. And we also connect with, we work with other investors. I mean, you've got a live breathing person on the phone. You need to make a pitch. If there isn't a house specifically in that estate, you have to be prepared with turning on a dime. So for agents, I mean, that could be, okay, well, I'll update my information. By the way, do you and the other heirs have plans on improving your living situation with the inheritance you're going to receive? So asking them if they're going to be looking for a house to purchase. You've got a live person on the phone. You got to make that pitch.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, Chuck. Wow. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
definitely keep that in mind. I'm writing my notes down. I literally had just one more question. I noticed that the call is being recorded. Where can I go to watch the replay?
YouTube.
Okay.
Multiple places. You can
Yep,
listen in the
YouTube.
car on with the podcast app, so it's on podcast. YouTube.
Okay.
It's also on our website. It'll be on Facebook. You can find it all over the place. But
Okay. So
YouTube's a biggie.
Yeah,
Okay.
just search our YouTube channel is All the Leads. You'll see it as the most recent video that's posted. We do live stream it on YouTube, and on any of your favorite podcast platform, just search for All the Leads Mastermind.
So this is Dan again, just following up quickly on the boat. I have a boat broker. I have sold a boat. I got $900. I pumped it into All the Leads. I added Chester to it. I do have an RV guy. We did sell an RV. I took that money again and I pumped it back into All the Leads. So you're getting like $1,000, $1,500, but that helps cover a month or two of All the Leads. So I have a furniture person, so if I can help you with something else, let me know. And I turn it into little residual, but little residual, you can multiply into big residual with All the Leads.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of changes the ROI calculation when you cover your marketing expenses to zero or a net positive.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind of
great.
back to what everybody says, don't lose that call. Surely there's something you can help them with, and they're going to remember that.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I know we're right at the end of our time, but there was one question. In your experience, what would be the soonest? So let's say you have somebody that comes to you and says, okay, my father just passed away and they haven't gotten to the probate process yet. Or if you know of somebody that has passed away and you're not getting that information from the list, how soon would you recommend reaching out to somebody based on the grieving, et cetera?
About 2 to 4 weeks, depending on if it's a veteran or how old they are and all that. But I also, I pass out a lot of door knockers. I know it's old fashioned, but I always get 5 or 6 out of that. And I list everything I could do. And one of the leads that I picked up, which was an estate, the daughter said, I don't know why, but my dad had this hanging on his refrigerator. I didn't know the dad. And I talked about what I did for everything, and all the leads were on there if you passed away. So either he was looking to buy a house or make a move, and I got it because he died. Most of the people throw the door knockers in the trash.
Yep.
Sometimes they end up on the refrigerator.
Yeah. So that's one way to address that. If it happened, that's just a success story that I got recently, but I usually give them time, but I know 2 weeks I have the letters mailed out, and it's usually about 8 days or so, Jim, before they mail those out.
Mm-hmm.
They send you a proof and all that. So now I've gotten 3 weeks there. I got my first letter batch out, and that's when you either get the call, how'd you get my number, or you're just totally mean. My dad just died, and that's when you try to pass on your condolences. But my letter says that right up front. So it's a perfect lead into it. But three weeks max, I would say. 2 to 4 is the range.
Good, Dan. Guys, we are up against the top of the hour. I got a couple of one more question that I want to answer here. If by any chance I didn't get to your question, we'll try to answer some of those in video format over the next week and post them on our Facebook group and YouTube channel. But I do have a question from Eric, and Eric said that you noticed that some of your leads are from a decedent that's not in your area with a personal representative that is also not in your area. So you're in one county and the decedent's last known address was somewhere else, somewhere far away, and the personal representative is not in your area, but it's a local attorney that's handling the estate. So what I want you to recognize, in most cases where you've got a local attorney and a filing in your county, that's normally because there are some assets in your county. Just because the last known address for the decedent is not local to you doesn't mean that there's not real estate where you are. It could be a lot. It could be a big high ticket personal property, boats, RVs, cars, things like that. It could be a rental that they have. There's normally some reason why they decided to file probate in the county where you're located. And typically it's because there's an asset there. Every now and then it's because it's just a local attorney and they knew the attorney and needed someone to handle it, and he just did it at the courthouse, or she just did it at the local courthouse. But most of the time it's because there's an asset. I would treat those just like any other lead. Turn it into a referral opportunity. If you're an investor, turn it into an investment opportunity. It might not be in your home market, but it's still an opportunity. And just remember, the majority of the time there is an asset in the county where probate was filed.
And mail those letters to the attorneys. We do.
Absolutely.
We got one attorney that's given us 2 others.
One attorney's given you 2 other attorneys?
Give us two estates. He gave us 2 estates, and another one of his attorney friends is now calling too. So, and it all started with the letter that we send out. So
beautiful.
but we
Yeah,
try
attorneys tend to golf together,
Yeah.
drink together, do a lot of things together. So if you're able to help one.
Yep.
So guys, yesterday we had a probate foundations class. We do that every month. If you guys are new here and have not been to probate foundations, sign up for the next probate foundations class. If you're not new here, or if you're not even a subscriber yet, you can still get in on that probate foundations class. It's the first Wednesday of every month. It's a couple hours long, and we go into detail over what your business needs to look like. So go to alltheleads.com. Go to the training dropdown, whether you're a subscriber or not, go to the training dropdown and register for that class. It's very valuable.
Hey, Bruce, I think Jessica has a real quick question. Let's get that before we get out. Jessica, can you go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, Daniel, do you send the same exact letter to the PR and the attorney, or are you customizing it differently?
I do, but on the attorney, we kind of modify it up front that, hey, we offer this business. We'd appreciate anything that you can send us in return. Of course, you'll start getting some business from me on closing. So it kind of like Jim said, you network and it's going to pay off.
And it's real important to know that our marketing implementation folks, one of them's always on this call listening, and they're really, really good at helping you put your letters together. We certainly can do all the printing for you, get them out in a timely way, and get it done. The same thing with door hangers. We do those. We do a lot of them every month. Business cards, flyers. We're a full service print shop. It's a part of our business, but we're happy to help you with any of that, and we can help you custom create what you're looking for. Put the right words to go with the music that you're doing. But that's literally why we got into the print side of our business and became a printer, so that we could get that done. And hopefully, Rose, that answers your question there. Anyway, Bruce, I know we're well past our time today. Go ahead.
Yep. A real fast, Rose's follow-up question is, where can you access those letters? If you're a subscriber, you can access a bunch of letters. About half of our total letters are easily accessible. You just go to Mailbox Motivator when you're logged into your portal, and you can see those. We do reserve those for our subscribers. And you can see all the letter and postcard templates. There's another bulk of letter templates that are predisposed or predetermined to go in packages. So if you guys are doing mail and you're doing 3 or more touches with us, then you get a big discount on your mailing costs. So we have about half of our letters that are available for any subscriber to pick and modify the way they want, and another half of those that are already picked for packages. And you guys can go in and pick a package if you want to send 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 mailers over time, and you want a discount on those. So just go into Mailbox Motivator and look at those letter samples and talk to your marketing implementation specialist if you want to see the package letters. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
All right, everybody. I was going to say, and I think, well, first of all, I think that was probably the single best interview we ever did, Dan, certainly among the best. And I think our subscribers agree. When I look down the comments, there's one comment after another about great nugget. So you really gave us a mother load of good nuggets today. And in a very factual, non-assuming way, I can see why you do as well as you do. So I wanted to thank both you and Ken for your input today. That was great stuff. We very, very much appreciate all of you, and we appreciate the value you brought to our subscribers today. And I want to thank all of you, in addition, for being here. And I want to challenge you like I always do. It might be a real challenge this week to pick just one thing, because there was a couple dozen, but take the best idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.